At 6, Morgan and Bella arrived. Bella wore a headband to hold back her bouncing blonde hair, but she changed into skinny capris and a black tee, so she didn't look quite so young and cute. Morgan wore khakis and a loose blue shirt of her husband's. They had all agreed to be comfortable, so Natalie was in jeans and a black cotton hoodie. "What do you think?" Natalie asked them. "Shall we start out on the deck?" "Oh, let's," Morgan pleaded. "The weather's so gorgeous." "In honor of the day, I've made strawberry daiquiris," Natalie announced, "with just a touch of rum, so we can drink all we want without getting hammered." She took the pitcher out of the refrigerator, and the other two women brightened at the sight of the frothy pink liquid, which Natalie carried out to the deck and poured into wide-rimmed glasses. They settled in Eleanor's comfortable wicker chairs around a table set with a plate of cheese, crackers, and fruit. A strong sun had warmed the deck, and as it slowly moved overhead, it cast slender shadows through the trees. "It's finally June," Bella sighed, stretching her arms. "I am so ready for it." "I'm so ready for this." Morgan put her glass on the table. "I don't mean the drink, although I'm certainly ready for it too. I mean a girls' night out. I had no idea how desperate I was to talk to women my own age." "I totally understand," Natalie agreed, "although Louise has been by a few times to see if I need anything." "Yes," Morgan said. "She helped me when we first moved in, too. She's a very cool lady." "She's beautiful," Natalie said. "I'd like to paint her." "Speaking of work," Bella said, "Natalie, would you show us what you're painting?" Natalie jumped up. "I thought you'd never ask." "Bring your drinks, ladies. The more you drink, the better my work looks." Natalie led them back into the house and up the stairs to the front bedroom she turned into a studio. This week she'd continued to transform the room into her place. Now, whenever she entered, she stepped into a stimulating, resplendent cocoon. She dragged in long tables from the rest of the house and dug out Aunt Eleanor's most vibrant shawls, tablecloths, and pots. She'd stacked the shelves along one wall with her big, heavy, glorious art books: Rembrandt, Monet, Pissarro, Wyeth. She'd hung a few of her own favorite paintings, all still lifes, and against one wall she'd set up a still life of a silver bowl with apples. Bella studied the beginnings of Natalie's painting on the easel. "Your work is astonishing," Bella said. "Thanks, but I don't know. I'm not feeling it." Natalie cast a critical eye at what she'd done. "I think it's the season. I shouldn't be using apples. It makes me think of fall. It's got too heavy a tone. I think I'll start over with strawberries, cherries." "These are all yours?" Megan knelt on the floor, looking through a pile of painted, unframed canvases. "They are. In New York I worked on abstracts." She chewed her lips. "But I like other styles too." Morgan had pulled a large canvas from the stack of the floor. "This one is amazing, Natalie." "Thanks." Natalie knew she had to get over the wash of embarrassment that flooded her whenever anyone complimented her. Her art felt so intimate, so personal, and most of all, her inner critic knew that the painting really wasn't amazing. It was, at best, okay. "Hey, my glass is empty. Back to the deck." It was cooling as the sun drifted across the sky, casting shadows, so they carried their drinks and munchies into the house and settled in the living room. "All right," Natalie said. "It's your turn for show and tell, Bella. What's the deal with you and Aaron?" Bella groaned. It's complicated. I met him in December, and we've been together every moment since. He's smart, he's good, and I'm in love with him." "Does he love you?" Morgan asked. Bella nodded. "Then what's the difficulty?" "He wants to move to California. He's been asked to interview at a San Francisco architectural firm. He's wild to work for." "Has he asked you to go with him?" Morgan asked. "Not yet, but he will. He told me he loves me. I'm sure he's going to ask me to marry him." Natalie was bending over the cheese board, slicing brie and dabbing it on crackers. She stopped and gawked at Bella. "You love him. He loves you. He's going to ask you to marry him. And your problem is—" Bella made a face. "I don't want to leave this area. I have a new appreciation of it after being away for a few years. Plus, I don't want to leave my family. I want to watch my sister's children grow up. When I have my children, I want my family around me. I don't want to be way out in California. Natalie rolled her eyes impatiently. If she ever found a man she loved who loved her back, she'd move anywhere with him. Morgan was more sympathetic. Softly, she analyzed the situation. Which is harder, to have a family you don't love or a family you love too much to leave? Um, there are these things called airplanes, Natalie told Bella. They take you places, like from here to California. Bella rolled her eyes. I realize that, but what if my children are sick and I need my family to come over and help me fix dinner and rock the baby? Bella, Natalie spoke in a sensible tone, you don't have any children yet. Maybe by the time you do, Aaron will have a job back on the East Coast. Bella shook her head. Aaron wants to be with a big firm building skyscrapers. Skyscrapers near Dragon Lake? I don't think so. What about you, Natalie? You moved here from New York. Do you have a man back in the city waiting for you? Natalie tossed back the bit of pink liquid from the bottom of her glass. Nope, no such luck. Believe me, Bella, I'd love to be in your situation. I haven't had very good luck with men. I don't know if I ever will. Well, you are kind of scary, Bella told her. Well, hey, Bella, Natalie laughed. Have some more daiquiri. Morgan snorted. Bella tried to explain. All black and sharp points and so serious. You look so edgy. Sharp points? Natalie asked. You're a size 0, Bella explained. Hardly. Size 6, and you should talk. You really are a size 0. Ladies, Morgan held out her hands. It's not about size. Look at me. I'm tall, I'm broad-shouldered, and Josh adores me. It's about meeting the right man. And frankly, Natalie, how can you meet anyone when you're stuck in your studio all day and night? Natalie straightened defiantly. Maybe I don't want to meet a man, okay? Maybe I don't want to get married and have children. Maybe I don't want to believe a man when he says he loves me, and then he leaves me and leaves my children and never sees them again, and doesn't care if they live or die, and they grow up feeling worthless. Bella and Morgan were silent. After a moment, Morgan tried to lighten the atmosphere. What did you put in these drinks? Natalie waved her hands. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring you all down. It's jealousy, Bella. Your family is so great. Our father walked out on us when I was 1. I haven't seen him since. Haven't heard from him. I did see how it worked my mother. All she cares about is her bulldogs. Not to mention how it turned my brother into a psychopath. Your brother's a psychopath? Bella asked, eyes wide. No, of course not. He's just kind of turned to stone. It does something to you, when you're a child and your father phones and tells you he's going to come see you and take you with him for a day or two, and then doesn't show up or even call with an excuse. Our father used to call Slade, never me. He was only interested in his son and tell Slade he'd pick him up some afternoon. Slade would get all dressed in his cleanest clothes. He'd comb his hair, even because Mom wouldn't do it for him. He's not going to come, Mom would say. Don't be a fool, Slade. Slade was 9 years old. He'd stand out at the end of our driveway, waiting for Dad's car. We lived out in the country. Hardly any cars passed. But when they did, I could see Slade rise up on his toes, his neck craning to see the driver. Then the car would go past, and Slade's shoulders would slump. He'd stand out there until it got completely dark. Our father promised to come for him at least 5 times, and he never came. Not once. Poor little boy, Morgan said softly. Poor you, Bella added. Natalie shook her head impatiently. We're okay. I shouldn't sound so pathetic. Slade is super smart. Got a full scholarship to BU. Went there for 2 years, then dropped out to work full-time with an antiques dealer on Newbury Street. He restores furniture. The more valuable, the better the challenge. He makes a decent living and has a new girlfriend every month. How old is he? Morgan asked. 35. Does he want to get married and have a family? Natalie chuckled. Slade? Slade hasn't committed to a girl or a woman in his life. He doesn't have to. He's drop dead sexy and couldn't care less about anyone but himself. She shuddered. Enough about him. Bella, tell me about Ben. Well, I guess he's kind of like Slade. Natalie rolled her eyes. Believe me, no one's like Slade, Bella explained. I mean, Ben's in his 30s. He doesn't have a partner, he's super smart, and he's kind of non-communicative. He's obsessed with his work. It's about fuel, energy, he told me, Natalie said. Josh said Ben's work is important. You're right, Bella agreed. It's just that he's so different from me and from my older sister, Patrice, and my younger brother, Brady. We're all social, like mom and dad. We talk all the time. We like people. We're extroverted. Extroverted. Ben's so interior. Natalie thought, I can understand that. As an artist, I feel that way a lot. She began, I can, Megan said it first. Morgan said it first. I can understand that. I'm a scientist too. What I work with is often a life or death matter. When I focus on my work, I really dig in. Okay, Bella argued, but you're capable of compartmentalizing your work and also paying attention to other things. Perhaps that's only because I'm not working now, Morgan pointed out. I don't have anything work-related to demand I use my brain. I do read articles online when I find the time, but basically, my brain's filled with a speed demon toddler and a husband who expects me to act like the little woman for his boss. Hey, I envy you, Bella said. I'd love to have a husband and a toddler. You're almost there, Natalie assured her. You're in love with Aaron. Oh, and would that be the Aaron who wants to move to California? Bella's remark brought them full circle. Suddenly, the roar and sputter of an engine assaulted their ears like a chainsaw cutting through the front walls. What's that? Bella asked. Oh, God, Natalie moaned. Slade's motorcycle. A moment later, the front door opened, and heavy, masculine footsteps came toward them down the hall. Hey, Natalie. Hello, everyone. Slade stood there, every adolescent girl's dream in his tight black jeans and heavy black boots. His glossy black hair, straight as a Cherokee's, fell to his collar. Slade was tall, thin, and terrifyingly handsome, with a 2-day beard of black bristles giving him a pirate's exotic allure. Natalie wanted to pound her head on the table several times. This always happened. Her friends went gaga over Slade. Right now, both Bella and Morgan were recovering from their first jaw-dropped, goggle-eyed reaction, segueing immediately into the female primate mating pose, Slade provoked. Their eyes widened, their eyelashes fluttered, their posture changed so that their chests stuck out, and they smiled like a pair of pointy-breasted models from a 1950s calendar, ready to make his dinner and bring him a drink. Slade kissed Natalie on top of her head and dropped into a chair across from her, his long legs in the black denim irresistibly attractive. Aren't you going to introduce me to your friends? Natalie waved her hand briefly. Bella, Morgan, this is my brother Slade. What are you doing here? I came to see you, of course. You invited me several times. What are you drinking? Bella answered, her voice breathy. Strawberry daiquiri, would you like one? She half rose from her chair. Thanks, Bella. Slade could always remember a woman's name. I'd prefer a beer if Natalie has any. I'll get it. Natalie rose and went into the kitchen. Did you come from Boston? Morgan asked. Concord. About an hour out of Boston. Took me just over an hour to get here. How long are you staying? Bella was almost panting. Slade shrugged. Depends on how long Natalie will put up with me. The weather's so great, I just jumped on my bike without any plan at all. I wouldn't mind staying here for the weekend, doing some hiking, now that it's getting warm. He took the beer Natalie offered him. Thanks, sis. The weather's supposed to be great all weekend, Morgan announced. Yes, Bella agreed, nodding eagerly. Even warmer than today. Well then, do you have room for me for the weekend, Nat? Slade asked. You know there's always room for you here, Natalie assured her brother, because, after all, he was her brother. even if he did turn her friends into 13-year-olds who thought he was Justin Bieber. Deep in her heart, locked in a box, sealed inside a casket, tied up with ropes, knotted 1,000 times, hid the hope that someday Slade would actually feel love from another person and return that love in truth and in fidelity. Of course, she hoped that for herself too. Slade sat on a chair at the end of the group, the beer in his hand. He took his sunglasses off, exposing his indigo blue eyes with their thick black lashes. "We've just moved in next door," Morgan gushed. "My husband, Josh, works for the new business, BioGreen, right on the other side of Amherst." Slade said, "Cool." Morgan continued, "We've got a little boy, Petey. He's just over a year old." "He's adorable," Natalie added. "He's got the fattest thighs." "Fat thighs. Nice." Slade's voice wasn't sarcastic. If anything, it was ultra polite. Bella's voice had gone husky. "I live next door, on that side. I think we might have seen you sometimes in the summer, when you and Natalie came to visit your Aunt Eleanor." "Possible." He took a swig of beer. "I should put Petey to bed." Morgan rose from the sofa. Slade moved. "Hey, don't leave because of me," he protested. He put his beer on the table. "I'll take a walk around the lake." "No, really," Morgan insisted. "I've got to help Josh." She turned to Natalie and hugged her. "This was great. We'll do it at my house next time." Bella reluctantly rose. "I should go too." She hugged Natalie, waved to Slade, and went out the door. Chapter 3. What was wrong with her? Bella wondered as she drove toward her mother's shop. She was irritable and critical and edgy. She could call it spring fever, but it was June. The air thick with summer humidity, and the sky an endless blue. Of course, she knew what was exactly wrong with her. Natalie. Sophisticated, chic, citified Natalie. Bella liked Natalie, and Natalie was nice to her. So why did Bella feel so uncomfortable around her? Why did Natalie make Bella feel so lame? Last night had been great, drinking those daiquiris with Natalie and Morgan. There hadn't been much alcohol in them, and what there was soaked up by the cheese, crackers, nuts, and olives Natalie had set out. So this morning, when Bella woke, she hadn't had the slightest hint of a hangover. So it wasn't the booze that conjured up the instant sense of camaraderie among the three of them. Except they weren't old friends, and something about last night had gotten Bella's hair on backward this morning. Was it Natalie's art? Natalie had real talent. Her still lifes were better than her abstracts, or maybe Bella thought that because she didn't get abstract art. Natalie had rushed them out of the studio before they could study any of her work, but Bella had had time to be impressed. Natalie had her art, Morgan had her science, and Bella had this. Barnaby's barn sat next to the road with space for cars off to the side, so the charming facade wouldn't be obscured. Bella parked. Bella parked. Instead of walking straight to the front door, she crossed the road and allowed herself a moment to stand considering the shop's appearance, trying to see it with a fresh eye. The barn was white clapboard. The windows were framed by blue shutters with cut-out hearts. The Dutch door was blue, and blue window boxes were filled with real flowers in the summer, and giant Louise-made striped lollipops and gingerbread people in the winter. Slate steps led in a crooked path from the parking lot to the blue front door. When she was a girl, Bella had believed the place was enchanted. Her mother had created a magical universe. Louise had delighted in crafting lake worlds and seeing children enter the shop, the way their eyes widened with happy surprise. That was 16 years ago. These days, Louise didn't seem to have the same enthusiasm for making the miniature worlds or for running the shop. Barnaby's barn was showing definite evidence of decline. Was there anything Bella could do to fix the situation? She crossed the road and the great gravel of the parking lot, unlocked the blue door, and stepped inside. It was adorable. The ceiling was a pale sky blue, the walls a sunny yellow, the floor tiled in light green. Louise had painted enormous tulips and daisies, smiling cows, and leaping lambs on the four walls, and wind chimes and mobiles hung from the ceiling, tinkling and glimmering whenever the door opened. The display cases for Lake Worlds were the first thing you saw when you entered, and other cases were set around, not in rows, but at odd angles, making the entire space a kind of maze. Shauna Webb's handmade pottery was sold here, with a special "Cow Jumped Over the Moon" set for the children. Elizabeth Lodge's handmade, embroidered, and smocked children's clothing shared a case with Lorelei Jenkins' hand-knit cashmere blankets and soft cotton baby clothes. Jim Harrington built cradles for real babies and smaller ones for dolls. He carved hearts and flowers and other designs into them and sold them here along with high chairs and stools. A sweet older woman named Lucy Latimer made stuffed dolls with stitched faces and Victorian milkmaid dresses. These seldom sold. Louise had no idea why, and she felt so bad about it. She always bought 2 or 3 a year to give as gifts, and told Lucy customers had bought them. In one corner was a playhouse complete with table, chairs, sink, stove, and tea set, where customers' children could occupy themselves while their parents shopped. Bella dropped her purse in the back room, grabbed a spray container of glass cleaner and a roll of paper towels, and began to polish the display cases. Outside, the day was golden with sunshine. She'd be surprised if she had any customers. Everyone would be out enjoying the good weather. Bella didn't mind working. Her mother had made other plans, and Bella was glad Louise could take a break. Anyway, Bella had always enjoyed running the shop. It allowed her a chance to dream a bit, to remember. She was not drawn to the dolls or blankets or even the lake worlds. No, it was the furniture displaying the objects for sale that drew her eye and filled her with an enigmatic pleasure. Her father's family, the Barnabys, had come over from England around the turn of the 20th century, bringing with them most of their furniture. As a child, Bella had spent her happiest hours roaming through her grandparents' house, hiding inside the gargoyle cabinet when playing hide and seek with her older sister and brother, or reclining on a velvet claw-footed settee, reading Sherlock Holmes while rain streaked down the windows. A magnificent bench stood in the grandparents' front hall, soaring almost to the ceiling, built from dark walnut, intricately carved with scrolls, leaves, and berries, inlaid with ivory cherubs floating upward along the back of the bench, and around a beveled glass mirror. Her grandparents had perched there to remove their rain or snow boots, then lifted the bench's lid and stashed the boots inside. That had been a good place for hide and seek, too. Armoires, desks, vanities, chairs. All the furniture in the house had a secret garden kind of feeling about it that Bella loved. And that was what it was. For Bella, each piece of antique furniture was like a novel, rich with layers of history, the patina, chips, and scratches all bearing witness to lives full of adventure, mystery, desire, and drama played out by people she'd never met. Bella daydreamed about what those drawers had once held: lace handkerchiefs, lawn waist, lawn waist, cravats and watch fobs, straw boaters, tiaras, jewelry, face powder, and tucked beneath it all, she was certain, love letters. With just one piece of antique furniture in a room, the room was connected to endless histories. Long ago, when Louise started her shop, she'd asked her in-laws if she could use a few pieces for display purposes, and they had readily agreed. Old elephants gathering dust, Bella's grandmother called them. When her grandparents died, they left everything to Bella's parents, who promptly put most of the antique furniture into a storage unit, sold the old Victorian in Northampton, and used the money from the house to pay for college tuition for their 3 oldest children. Her parents thought the furniture was too dark and impractical. They filled their own home with light, bright, easy furnishings that children could bump their plastic fire trucks into without Louise worrying about damage. In Barnaby's barn, Louise had mixed a few pieces of the most useful old furniture with inexpensive tables she'd found on sale at Target or Walmart. The furniture didn't matter to Louise. It was the displays that counted for her. but the furniture mattered to Bella. She loved those old elephants. When Bella was in college, she'd taken a few courses in interior design and art history, although she'd had no real idea what sort of job this might lead to. She was well aware of her father's unspoken hope that one of his children would follow his lead and become a teacher. Her older sister, Beatrice, had married young and now had 3 children. Ben had gone into science, and her younger brother, Brady, who also seemed a scientific type when he didn't seem like a typical loopy adolescent. Bella was fond of children, and she worshipped her father, so in her junior year she declared her major in education and became a third-grade teacher. Teaching had been pleasant enough, but for her it wasn't the passion that it was for others. On this quiet morning, as she walked around the shop, she admitted to herself that her mother wasn't as absorbed with Barnaby's barn as she'd been before she broke her leg. Louise had joined a bridge group and a book club. Both met once a week. It had invigorated her, Louise confessed, to be with friends her own age, to discuss ideas, to use her mind at cards. She started collecting brochures about European cruises. What did that mean for Barnaby's barn? Bella wasn't sure. Her mother hadn't yet said she wanted to close it. Did Bella want to take it over? If she did, she would certainly change it. Right now, it looked tired to her, outdated. The best thing about Barnaby's barn for Bella was that it was where she had first met Aaron Waterhouse when he entered the store in December looking for a Christmas present for his niece. The bell above the door tinkled, and a plump, white-haired woman entered, wanting advice about a gift for her granddaughter. Bella smiled and gladly went to work. At noon the bell tinkled again, and Aaron walked in. He wore khakis and a red rugby shirt, and moved with his usual tightly controlled energy. Lunch. He held up 2 white paper bags. Aaron, how wonderful! Bella slid out from behind the counter to kiss him lightly. I didn't think I'd see you until tonight. You have to eat, I have to eat. Perfect solution. Let's sit outside. Oh, Bella thought quickly. The shop, the phone. We'll sit on the bench under the tree. If a customer comes, you can go in. Take the phone with you. If it rings, answer it. Bella kissed him again. That's what I like about you. So practical. He nuzzled her neck. Is that the main reason? She allowed herself a moment's surrender to desire, leaning against him before pulling away. You know it's not. Beneath an old apple tree, Louise had placed a wrought iron bench. They settled here. Aaron took out his offerings and set them on the bench between them. Cheddar with chutney, turkey with honey mustard. How about we take half of each? Chips, juice. Chocolate, she asked. You'll have to wait and see, he teased. They ate lunch, chatting companionably. Bella leaned back on the bench, gazing up at the pure blue sky. I'm glad you got me out here. This is the first perfect day of summer. Summer doesn't actually begin until June 20th, Aaron told her. Stop that. She slugged his shoulder in pretend irritation. Feel the air. Look at the sky. It's summer. Look at the flowers. The lilac bush is still blooming. And over there, peonies. Both late spring plants. He was trying not to grin. But this was a game they played often. Aaron couldn't help it. He had a mind that retained absolutely every fact in detail. When they played Trivial Pursuit or watched Jeopardy, he never missed. Bella nudged his foot with hers. You have no soul, she carped, but they both knew she was lying. Aaron had a huge soul. Furthermore, Bella admired him for knowing so much. If tomorrow is this nice, let's get the canoe out on the lake in the afternoon. Good idea. Aaron stuffed the used papers into the bags. He brought out a small box and offered it to Bella. Godiva, she gave him a suspicious look. What does this mean? It's our dessert. Aaron, he had plenty of money, but he was frugal, and she liked that about him. And he knew she liked that about him. A Hershey bar would have been just fine. I got the call. I'm going out for the interview next Thursday. Bella's appetite vanished. She stared down at the small gold box without seeing it. That's great, Aaron, but California is so far away. I don't have the job yet, he reminded her. Reaching over, he held her hand. Bella, we can work things out. A silver Range Rover pulled into the parking lot. The perfect moment for an interruption. Bella thought, oh, look, I've got a customer. Can we discuss this tonight? Sure, Aaron replied amiably. Bella and Aaron stood up. Recognition of the Range Rover suddenly hit her. It was the car Eleanor Reynolds had left for Natalie, and it was Natalie who stepped out of the passenger seat. Her brother Slade, his eyes hidden by black sunglasses, stepped out from the driver's side. Bella hadn't expected to see Slade and Natalie again so soon. She'd never expected to see Slade anywhere near Barnaby's barn. In the glare of the bright June sunshine next to the silver Range Rover, Slade didn't seem real. He was like a transformer in the farmyard. Hi, Bella. Hi, Aaron. Natalie was in black, too. Tight black pants, black t-shirt, black sandals. Isn't it a great day? Slade and I thought we'd explore the area, and we saw your shop. Aaron, this is my brother Slade. The two men shook hands. Bella and Natalie led the way into Barnaby's barn. Aaron and Slade behind them. The four just stood inside looking around. It's sweet, Natalie said, but her compliment seemed forced. It needs a lot of work, Bella admitted. I hadn't realized how shabby it's gotten. It's not shabby, protested Natalie. She walked over to the display of lake worlds. These are your mother's? Oh, they're darling. Slade, come look at this beaver family. Perfection. The teeny buck teeth, the flat tail, incredible attention to detail. But Slade stalked on his long legs clear to the back of the room and dropped down in a squat. Bella looked at Aaron with an inquisitive arched eyebrow. Aaron's mouth quirked up, and his expression clearly read, I couldn't tell you what the guy's doing. Lucy Latimer's hand-painted stuffed dolls were arranged on the table as if at a tea party, their flounced pinafores and long dresses spread around them. Not, Bella thought, quite what she would have picked for Slade's interest. But really, she noticed, his interest wasn't in the dolls, but in the table. Painted cream with an edging of ivy and daisies. Slade reached under the drop leaf and pulled out the gate leg. Without saying a word, he laid on his back, scooted beneath the lifted table leaf. Slade! Natalie threw her hands in the air. I can't take you anywhere. She turned to Bella and Aaron. I told you, Slade works in an antique shop. He is mad about restoring antiques. Oh, that table's not valuable, Bella insisted. I think it was in my grandmother's sewing room, and then Louise painted it to use in the shop to hold things. The legs crack, so we have to keep that leaf dropped. She shouldn't have painted it, Slade's voice came from under the table. Why not? It's her table. She needed it to fit in with the gift shop decor. Slade scooted out from under the table and rose, all in one sinewy, graceful motion, like an acrobat or an eel. That's an English tiger oak drop-leaf table with barley twist legs, restored, easily, 1,000. Slade kept his hand on the table, caressing the wood as he talked. His voice was low and smoky, its timbre resonating deep within Bella's body, gently touching her to open a door so secret even she hadn't known it existed. Her breath caught in her throat. She stared at him, unable to speak. Natalie misunderstood her reaction. Surprised to discover you own a valuable piece of furniture? Slade's always doing that, finding a treasure someone never knew they possessed. Good Lord, look at this. Slade crossed the room and inspected the open doors of the cabinet displaying Shauna Webb's pottery. He ran his hands along the wood and knelt down to investigate the carved doors on the bottom. Without turning to look at Bella, he growled, Do you have any idea what you've got here? Again, Bella explained. It's a piece from my grandparents' home. It was my favorite because of the gargoyle carved on top, but now that we use it for a display piece, I have to admit, I get frustrated dusting all the intricate carvings. This is a marvelous piece of work. Now, Slade did look at her, and a blue flame of passion gleamed in his eyes. It's easily worth $10,000. I'll give you 10,000 for it right now." I had no idea. Bella crossed the room and delicately touched her fingertips to the stained glass in the top doors. Slade was running his hand over the long panel of wood on the side. A kind of current of controlled excitement radiated from him like a rushing river she was compelled to enter. "I would never sell it without my mother's permission." "Slade's not buying it anyway." Natalie stalked across the room, snatched up her brother's hand, and yanked him away from the cabinet. "Slade, Grip, get one. You are on vacation. We are going to have fun. You cannot buy antiques." Slade allowed himself to be pulled away. "Sorry," he said to Bella. "Guess I got carried away. It's just that really is a remarkable piece of furniture." "We're going into Northampton," Natalie told Bella. "Is the shop open tomorrow?" "No, thank heavens. Closed Sundays." "Good. Maybe we can all get together for drinks." "I'd like that." Bella walked the brother and sister to the door and waved at them as they went out to the Range Rover. "Thanks for coming in," she called, closing the blue door. She faced Aaron. "That was intense." Aaron shrugged. "But profitable, perhaps. That guy really seems to know his stuff. Who cares how odd he is if he can help you make some money?" Bella frowned at Aaron. "I don't know, Aaron. I think my grandparents intended for this furniture to be handed down to their children and grandchildren." "Well, they have been, and look where they are. Not in your house, but in your shop." "You're right," Bella mused. An idea was taking form in her mind and in her heart, which was shaking pom-poms of excitement, but she needed to think it through. "But maybe Ben or Brady or I will want them for their homes." Aaron laughed. "Honey, come on, look at that cabinet. Gargoyles and stained glass. It's like something from the fall of the House of Usher." Stunned, she snapped, "That's a terrible thing to say." Aaron held up his hands. "Sorry." She wrapped her arms around her chest as if she were holding herself together. Why was she in such a state? She felt as if she'd had too much coffee to drink, as if she jumped into a cold river and couldn't catch her breath. Aaron gave her a few moments to gather herself, then took her in his arms. "Hey," she spoke into his chest. "Aaron, I'm thinking this through. I guess I'd always assumed that some of my grandparents' furniture would be in my house when I got married, for my children to see. Not that cabinet, I hope. It would give children nightmares." "I totally disagree." Bella pushed away so she could face him. "Aaron, I always treasured that cabinet. I didn't find the gargoyle scary. He was like a magic friend." "Okay, I get you. It's a great idea to have some of your grandparents' furniture in our house. But Bella, when the time comes, it's going to be our house, right?" She searched his honest, open face. She allowed his tense shoulders to loosen. "Of course." She slid past him, out of his arms, and walked to the cabinet. "If we sold this cabinet, it would certainly help Barnaby's barn financially." A thought tickled her brain, like a plant searching to wedge its way up into the light of her mind. "If we changed the shop, if we sold some antiques too, we've got old pieces all over the place. We ought to have Slade value them. Ben's got my grandfather's old desk in his apartment. I think it's maple, maybe something that begins with a B." She laughed. "Of course it would. My grandfather Barnaby loved to begin everything with a B." "Bella." Aaron remained planted in place. "Even if you sell all the furniture your family owns, it's going to run out. Maybe you'll save your shop for a few more months, but then what?" Uncomfortable, Bella said, "You sound like you want the shop to fail." "I don't want it to fail, Bella, but I do want you to be open to possibilities elsewhere. I want you to think about something else. I don't want to talk with you about it here in Barnaby's place. I want it to be in my space, or at least in a neutral space." He looked concerned. "I'd better go. I can get some work done while you've got the shop open. I'll see you tonight, right?" "Right." Bella forced herself to walk to the door with him. She kissed him absent-mindedly. "Thanks for the lunch." Chapter 4. Petey was taking his morning nap. Morgan was at her computer, so engrossed in a proposed amendment to the Solid and Human Waste Management Act that when her cell buzzed, she nearly jumped out of her chair. Josh! Her voice was a bit too chipper, her heart pounding as if he'd caught her with a lover. Hi. Just calling to be sure we're set for tomorrow night. She was glad he couldn't see her eye roll. Josh, the Ruoffs are only coming for drinks. You went with me to the liquor store and insisted on buying a full range of unbelievably expensive wines and scotches. You saw the cheese and crackers I bought. I can't make the bruschetta until tomorrow night. It has to be heated in the oven for the cheese to melt. I'm worried about that bruschetta. She couldn't believe it. You're worried about the bruschetta? It sounds messy. Something could fall onto Eva's dress. Josh, have you lost your mind? Morgan, we agreed wouldn't argue. He was in his office, his voice tense. Morgan took a deep breath. She recalled that when Josh first met the Ruoffs, Josh had nicknamed them Mr. Wannabe Bill Gates and his wife, Kris Kardashian. Although they had laughed at the Ruoffs' pretentious style, they couldn't help but admire their work ethic and success. The truth was, Ronald Ruoff was making significant steps toward a greener world, even if he and his wife were both crass and pushy, and his firm was making money. Josh was making money now too, and all for his family. Morgan could never forget the deciding event that propelled them into changing their lives. Their car failed to pass inspection. Morgan had to push Petey in his stroller for blocks to the grocery store and back in the pouring rain. Josh had returned home in time to see his wife and son soaked and shivering. That does it, Josh had said, lifting Petey in his arms. I'm taking the BioGreen job. And he had. And here they were. Softening her voice, Morgan assured her husband, Okay, sweetie, I'll find another recipe. Something that doesn't drip. Right. She was an expert in hazardous waste management, and her job was to invent a dripless canape. Something that doesn't drip. She choked back an insane little titter. Great. Thanks. You're a star. Hey, have you joined a health club yet? Now she was speechless. The Josh she had married would never have called anyone a star. Morgan wanted to warn him. Don't call me a star. I'm not a client. You're not a Hollywood agent. Stop talking like Ronald Ruoff. Josh was picking up all kinds of bizarre and unappealing mannerisms over at BioGreen, and it was making her crazy. But she held her tongue. I thought I'd try the gym outside Amherst this afternoon, she told him. I've read about it online. It has a great children's playroom with a full-time babysitter. Great idea, babe. You might meet some prospective clients. Hey, babe, life's not just about meeting clients. She loved and detested him at the same time. I hate it when you use that tone of voice. Sorry, his own voice roughened with frustration. Look out the window, for crying out loud. Look where you are. Look at the house we're living in. We've got a beach for our son to play on. We took him out in a canoe last Sunday. What more do you want? I guess I want us to be like we used to be, Morgan said simply. Look, I can't get into all this now. Just join a health club. Josh clicked off without saying goodbye. Something else he'd never done before, taking the job at BioGreen. She didn't know if he did it consciously to reinforce the fact of his incredibly stressful busyness, or if he did it unconsciously, moving so fast from one thing to another, which in a way was worse, because it put her among the other things no more important. She sat glumly at her desk, staring at her computer screen. She closed the EPA website and opened one about canapes. Scrolling down, she discovered a recipe for salmon and caviar and crackers. Salmon and caviar. That should please Josh. Maybe she'd sprinkle some silver leaf on it all. But no, she was being petty. After all, she and Josh had talked for hours before he agreed to take this job. He was incredibly lucky to get the offer, and they both knew it. It required just the right mix of odd skills and training that Josh possessed. He'd started off as an English literature major in college, but after 2 years and an increasing awareness of how few professorial positions there were for English majors, he switched over to chemistry. He had that kind of mind. Sometimes she thought he could do anything. By the time she got her master's in environmental health science, Josh had whizzed through the chemistry doctoral program. They'd met at the university, and before long they moved in together, sat on the sofa, legs tangled together, poring over chem text. They both knew they were in a growth industry, for better or worse. The world was speeding down a technological superhighway, tossing its waste out the window and forgetting about it. The potential dangers were stunning. It would not be politicians who saved the world. Morgan and Josh agreed. It would be the nerd with the clipboard and glasses who made sure that the masks protecting lab workers from formaldehyde were up to code. They were married right after Josh finished his PhD, and both took jobs outside Boston. Morgan worked in the environmental safety office at Wethersfield College, and Josh at one of the high-tech corporations on Route 128. They had tuition loans to repay, and Boston was an expensive place to live, so they decided to put off their dream of having a large family until they could afford a house. Accidentally, Morgan got pregnant. "Don't worry," she told Josh. "I'll work after the baby's born." Then Petey came into the world, pink, perfect, helpless, infinitely precious. "Don't go back to work, Morgan," Josh had begged her. "You should stay home for a year, at least. He needs you. He's so vulnerable. He's so—" Josh had choked back his emotion, unable to find the right words. Morgan had never loved Josh more than at that moment. "I know," she agreed. "I don't want to leave him. Not yet. But how will we make it financially?" "We'll draw up a new budget and learn to economize. I'll work 2 jobs if I have to." Morgan had not asked him, "If you work 2 jobs, when will you see your son? When will you see me?" She knew Josh was doing all he could for them. Josh met Ronald Ruoff at an ecology conference in Chicago, and they hit it off immediately. Josh, with his big shoulders and blazing red hair, had a charisma about him, not a rock star dazzle that made people shy, but a gentle charm and a way of listening that made people feel they were the fascinating ones. And it was the truth. After all, Josh did find people fascinating. He was not some phony jerk. He loved learning what made people tick, why they made the choices they made, what their hopes were for the future. Josh had a huge heart. Morgan knew that about him. Sometimes, these days, though, she wondered whether that big heart had gotten buried beneath a pile of money. Sometimes she'd wondered if he drunk a magic elixir that transformed him from the man she loved into the super stressed, fast talking, GQ reading, clothes conscious, Cadillac driving, overworked, never home executive who worried about his wife making contacts. Shoving her chair away from her desk, Morgan stalked out of her office. Ha! She had an office but no job, and down the hall to the living room. It felt good to walk, and their new house was so damn big she could get exercise just from going room to room. Be fair, she told herself. Remember your promise to Josh. He would be bringing in so much money they could pay off their tuition loans, put away money for Petey's college, and still live well. Or, as Josh put it, live in style. Morgan had tried to keep her part of the bargain. She agreed with Josh to buy this contemporary house, even though in her eyes it had all the coziness of a World War II bunker. The best part about it for her was the beach and the lake. Petey would learn to swim, sail, boat. They'd hike in the woods. The Amherst Public School District was superb. Anyway, since when had she been so sensitive to the ambiance of a room? When they lived in their rented condo in Boston, they joined their grad student sofas and tables and used them, ugly, mismatched, but comfortable, and just perfect for life, with a spitting up newborn baby whose bowel movements mysteriously leaked out of his diaper. Morgan's part of the job at BioGreen, Josh had told her, was to make their new home stunning. They were to have lots of glam parties with new posh friends who would be so wowed by the O'Keeffe's sophistication and wealth that they'd feel blessed to be allowed to invest in the company. How to make their home stunning. Morgan had never considered such a project before. Morgan had thought of phoning her mother. because her family's home was so handsomely decorated. Then she remembered how busy her parents were and decided not to bother them. She had shopped the way she lived, online, finding and pricing pieces of furniture before driving to the store to see them. It had been easier to do it on the internet than lugging her baby in a pack. Immediately, she decided against black and white. It had a cool look, but one leak from Petey's diaper and the white wouldn't have the same chic gloss. She'd found a deep smoke gray sofa with matching chairs. Her genius touch was a chrome coffee table and chrome end tables. Their entire living room gleamed softly and worked perfectly with the floor-to-ceiling fireplace of variegated fieldstones. Was it too monotone? Morgan chewed on her fingertip, studying the room. One wall was all glass, displaying the lake. Couldn't get better than that. Chrome lamps stood around, casting light, and she placed one large red vase, wedding present, in the center of the chrome table, then removed it because it appeared just too house beautiful. This room needed something, though. Just as a light bulb went off in her brain, she heard Petey calling out, awake from his nap. Natalie opened her door, letting the sunlight flood into the front hall. Hi, Morgan. Come in. Hello, Petey. She wore cargo shorts and a loose white shirt covered with a million dots and dribbles of paint. I'm so glad you phoned. I've been working all day and getting nowhere but frustrated. Want a Diet Coke? Lemonade? She took Petey's chubby hand. Graham cracker? He's fine. He just had his after nap treat. Morgan told her, and I came to see your paintings again. I want to buy one. Natalie looked staggered. Man, I should have people over for drinks more often, she joked, but her smile was uneasy. Morgan, listen. That's really nice of you, but none of my paintings is ready to be exhibited yet. They're all works in progress. Morgan shifted her son onto her other arm. I remember a large abstract of red and black. Natalie shook her head. I don't think my real forte is abstract painting. I have to put Petey down someplace, Morgan said. He weighs about 100 pounds. Can we go in your kitchen? Give him a couple of pans and spoons and spatulas? Sure, of course. Natalie led them into the kitchen, and Morgan settled the little boy against the wall to stabilize him. The floor's clean. At least I think it is. Don't worry. Petey hasn't quite mastered the art of picking up crumbs yet. He's better with big things. There. Anything rubber is good because while Morgan was talking, Natalie squatted down and placed a pot and a big slotted spoon in front of him. Petey gave a macaw scream of joy and began enthusiastically banging the spoon on the pot. Oh, Natalie said, I see why rubber is good. The child gave a rubber They gave the child a rubber spatula, which didn't interest him. Natalie took out a nest of Tupperware bowls and put them in front of him. Soon he was pounding on the Tupperware, which made much less noise. It's almost 5, Natalie said. Glass of wine? In a minute. Natalie, I really want to buy that painting. You only saw it once. Then let me look at it again. Before Natalie could respond, she said, Petey, you play with Natalie. Mommy's going upstairs just for a minute. Petey had discovered he could hit the spoon on the tea tin, making a new noise. He didn't even notice his mother leave the room. Morgan zipped through the house and up the stairs. She found her way to the room Natalie was using as a studio and entered. The still life remained set up on the easel. Morgan cast a quick glance at it, noticed how Natalie had softened the colors of the shawl, and felt a momentary twinge of guilt for intruding this way. Weren't artists supposed to be defensive of their unfinished work? She looked away, to the darker corner of the room, where the pile of abstracts were stacked on the floor, leaning against the wall. She rummaged through the paintings, taking care to do so slowly, until she found the one she remembered. It was very large, perhaps 4 feet by 5, an explosion of color. She pulled it out from the others, carried it over to the wall lit by sunlight, then walked away to study it from a distance. It looked like an erupting volcano, or an exotic blossoming flower, or a swirling gypsy skirt, or She picked it up to carry it downstairs and saw on the back a small white label, Romance, Abstract in Oil, Natalie Reynolds, $500. Aha! Morgan positioned the painting with the oil facing away from her body and slowly, step by step, went down the stairs, through the hall, and into the kitchen. By now, Natalie had joined Petey on the floor and added a red colander and a set of measuring cups to the timpani. Petey was intent on his hammering, crawling from one pot to another, and Natalie was hitting various items with a whisk while singing, "I don't want to work, I want to bang on the drum all day." Morgan set the painting on the floor, shoved her hand into her pants pocket, and yanked out her cell phone. She took a video of the pair, and just in time, because Natalie looked up and saw her. Natalie stood up. "My ears are ringing. Don't tell me you got us on video. And it's going right to YouTube." "I don't think so. Look at him. He's still banging away. Doesn't he ever get tired?" "Not tired, no. He'll get bored in a while and crawl off to wreak havoc somewhere else." "Let's go down to the beach," Natalie suggested. "Sand is quieter." "Good idea. Let's take the Tupperware and a spoon for him to play with. And I'll bring some iced tea for us." Morgan scooped up Petey and some bowls. Natalie carried the iced tea and a spoon. They went out the kitchen door onto the deck and down the wooden steps to the flagstones leading through the short stretch of lawn to the beach. When Petey saw the sand, he struggled to get there. All right, so we'll stop in the middle of chapter 4 for today, and then we will pick up next week at the same place. Okay?
Sounds good. That sounds good.
Okay.